Welcome to Good Morning Football. We are live in New York City. It is October 9th. My name's Kay Adams, Nick Burleson, Kyle Brandt. Welcome to the meat locker that is our studio this morning. Mike here.
It's a little cold. It's a little cold.
Hey,
have a good show.
Thank you.
Stay healthy out there.
All right.
Come on, now let go. How dare you? Now it's cold.
Oh, I see what you did there. Was that a little Baker Mayfield, Richard Sherman?
Might have been.
We will get to that in a little bit. Well done. That's what you call a physical tease. All right, or a physical challenge, if you will. Listen, you'll hear it here first. It's Wednesday. We have the exclusive announcements of Players of the Week. We do it right here, only on GMFB. So stick around. We'll tell you who went off this past weekend and who will be crowned this week. Plus, we got the deepest bombs and the longest runs of the week in America's favorite game show. Your stamina and skill will be at the test for the long show. Exactly. And of course, it's Wednesday. I usually do it on Tuesday, but we want to move it to the middle of the week. I know you saw the catches, but did you see the footwork? It is toe drag swag. Ready, Kay? Because I'm ready.
Is this one of those days?
It's one of those days, Kay.
It's one of those Nate Burleson days.
It's going down.
It happens every couple of weeks. This seems to be one of those days. So let's start with the lead block.
Lead block.
So yesterday morning, we kind of broke down the story early. Michael Silver put out the statement about Richard Sherman and his comments, saying that Baker Mayfield was disrespectful by not shaking his hand before the game. And Kyle, your first reaction was to bring up a very good point. Let's first go back to yesterday's show.
I will say there's something kind of funky going on about this. If you remember Baker in college, aside from the flag planting incident, the one thing that really set him off was against Kansas when he grabbed his crotch. What prompted him to grab his crotch? The Jayhawks refused to shake hands with him at the point toss, which of all things is not a sin I would have him commit. And is there video of this? Is there possible that there was a misunderstanding about what was an intended handshake? Did Richard Sherman reach his hand out and Baker Mayfield backed away from it? I'm a little skeptical of this. There's a million cameras.
Kyle's right. Monday Night Football has 1,000 cameras.
Where is the shot of this?
And pregame, they'll capture anything Baker Mayfield's doing. There was no video evidence.
Sometimes it gets messy during handshakes, and Kittle said that he did dap him up.
Dun, dun, dun. That was before we saw any video footage. The world was waking up as we were discussing this, and now we do have video evidence.
Yeah, it was a weird afternoon on NFL Twitter. You all followed it. There was handshake semantics, grainy videos, close-in videos. Did they shake hands?
Right.
So let's take a look.
We
got it.
Take a look.
Break it down.
Shall we break it down? Come on over here, my friends. All right. We got video here from our guy, Jake Trotter, who I think was given up by the Warren Commission. And here we go, guys. We have our classic spread formation here. Left to right. This, of course, is a case of attempted character assassination of Baker Mayfield. Remember, there were 2 shots fired, 2 shots. One that he did not shake hands, one that he was disrespecting the etiquette of the game. Let's go to Levi's Stadium. Monday, October 7, 2019, approximately 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. As I said, the Warren Commission, this video, I believe, was taken from the Napa Valley Book Depository. But here we go. We got 5 captains right here in the middle. We have the accused, Baker Reagan Mayfield. Reagan, interesting middle name in this context. The accuser right here, Richard Kevin Sherman, mid-hug here with Hubbard. Let's see how this goes. Action. Let's watch the action play out.
What do we got?
Baker set up right here in the middle. Sherman's gonna hug Hubbard. Quick with Hugh lit right here. And here we go. Eyes Baker. Baker turns, the hands raised, and free. All right. Now listen.
That's a handshake.
It appears to be a handshake. We have an elevated forearm here, an elevated forearm here. What I would love to know is, where is this shot from this camera? Because this is the money shot. I don't know if it was destroyed by the Cubans or what may be, but here we go. As they're all collected here on this grassy knoll in Napa Valley, it appears eye contact, one official here, cameras everywhere, witnesses, my friends. And this is the moment, so let's roll it and see how this plays out.
Okay, what do we got?
Okay, advance this now. Baker, Sherman, eye contact, and then he's moving. Baker's still looking We're going on to hug the next captain. If anything, Kittle gets left hanging because Baker is still looking at Sherman. Kittle's still being left hanging. Get out of my shot. We're hugging everywhere. Hug Whitehead, and we finally get to it. Could I go in a little closer, please?
Let me
now,
see.
you don't see the moment of handshake, okay? That if they didn't handshake, we'd have some sort of a magic handshake theory that took place behind this. Oliver Stone is going to do the football life of it. But guys, this looks a lot like a handshake to me. If anything, the blow-by was done a little bit by Sherman, who went right through this thing like a drive-through. So Baker didn't have the etiquette. Baker didn't shake hands. I don't know unless there's a multiple handshake theory that Richard Sherman wants to go to. Are you guys convinced that Baker Mayfield stood there and showed respect for Richard Sherman?
Could have been a second shaker.
That's what I'm saying. It could have been a second shaker.
Yeah, you got to go to
And they got to find him. He's in a movie theater somewhere just hanging out.
So Sherman, I saw your tweet. He reacted to the video on Twitter and said, so you don't see any difference in the way I shake everyone else's hand, and the guy who stands back with a petty shake was BS, and I took offense to it, then turns and runs off. It's not that big of a deal. Sherman tweeted again saying, people freaking out over a handshake gave me a good laugh. I will lose no sleep over it and have moved on to the next opponent. You thought that was a bit of backpedaling. Kyle Brandt, Nate Burleson, what do you make of this, and are you seeing either of these two differently this morning?
Yesterday, I had my opinions on Baker Mayfield if he indeed gave Sherman the stiff arm on the handshake.
The curve.
But after seeing the close-up, Kyle, well done, I must say.
Thank you.
The elevated elbow and then the back angle of Baker Mayfield's arm retracting. That
forearm.
basically means you hit the boom.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
You shook like a gentleman.
Yeah, exactly. Here's the thing. Before the game, you don't need to bro hug it out with everybody.
Okay.
There's guys that I literally gave the businessman handshake to because I didn't like him and I didn't want to get close to him. I didn't
like
want to pat you on the
Urlacher.
back. Yeah, I hit you with one of these. Yo, what's
Brian.
up?
Okay.
Now when I see Urlacher, I give him a big hug and a kiss on the cheek. But there are games when you're so-called beefing with an individual that you don't necessarily like where you just give them the business handshake. I don't see a problem with it. I do feel like Richard Sherman is playing the Jedi mind trick on himself and on his team and finding ways to motivate his squad.
I don't hate on him for
this
that.
is old Richard Sherman tactics. If you remember back in the day when he was with the Seattle Seahawks, he would say subtle things and you're kind of thinking to yourself, are you tripping or are you trying to get your team going? And I feel like right now Richard is trying to get his team going.
It's got to make sense in his head.
Exactly.
And it's got to make sense in their head when they hear him say that. That's all that he cares about.
Everything's on camera, though.
I get it. Well, what I'd like to know, and Nate, you can answer this, is it etiquette that you have to have the second shake? You know, you get the shake, hey, how you doing? Then you flip the coin, then you get, I've seen it. That usually is the way that things go.
Second shaker theory.
Are you breaking the etiquette by not having the
I was
second
always
shake?
told that 2 shakes is too much. Might be a different situation, but here's the thing, Mike G, you said something early on in the meeting. It's 5 a.m. and you said something that I thought was something we bring up. You said, would young Richard Sherman shake older Richard Sherman's hand?
Yes. We need to get a hologram like Prince at the Super Bowl.
I don't think young
and figure
Richard
out
Sherman would because he was confrontational. And he didn't care who he rubbed the wrong way. And I think Baker Mayfield is the same
Baker's
way.
got a little Sherman in him. You know what I mean?
If Sherman doesn't like young Baker Mayfield, he wouldn't have been able to stand young Richard Sherman. You know what I mean? There's a similar thing going on here. And Sherman tweets, everybody's freaking out about a handshake. We're freaking out about it because you told Mike Silver right after the game that he didn't shake your hand, Rich. Come on.
He's not a rookie. He's not a guy who doesn't think that that's going to travel or be written up and ascend. Like, he knew what was going to happen. So that's over and done with. But we have to sort of discuss how this is going to be played out today, how Baker Mayfield and the Browns handle this. And here's what his coach said. Here's Freddie Kitchens yesterday when asked about the antics.
Well, I think different people find motivation from different things, and I think ultimately it's what we do on the field, not off the field, in that type setting that matters. Ultimately, we go to the game with a plan. We execute the plan, and we're usually successful. If it's a good plan, we execute it. We're usually successful. It has nothing to do with things off the field like that. It's all about how you play the game.
Browns coming off a loss. Baker Mayfield playing some of the worst football that we're seeing in the NFL right now with 8 interceptions, just 4 touchdowns. And this week they have to face the guy who's playing the best football in the NFL this year, Russell Wilson, and the Seahawks for Week 6. I got to ask you, Nate, if you were to give Baker advice, not what he will do, but what he should do in handling this when he has to address the podium today. What would you tell him? To just ignore it, address it, be himself? What?
I would say be himself and address it as he sees. Yesterday, I thought that Baker Mayfield was in the wrong, and I apologize for assuming that Baker Mayfield didn't shake Richard Sherman's hands. But if Baker Mayfield did exactly what we just saw, address the situation as is.
He looks good coming out.
Look to the camera, talk to Richard Sherman, and be like, I shook your hand. What more do you want from me? I feel like Baker Mayfield at this point, he's already left the dock on the not being humble boat.
Sure.
Yeah. Just go ahead and continue to be the same individual. I can care less about him not playing well. That's just the way the game goes.
Even when he's losing, though, he acted like that and has that bravado and gravitas because he was a winner. He turned this team around last year. He was a winner after being a walk-on in college. He's not winning right now. He's actually losing badly.
And his post-game, his press conference during the post-game, I mean, he was downright, I don't want to say it's going to get pouty. I mean,
that's dejected.
He was dejected, right?
Kicked.
But he's not going to go tail between his legs. He's never going to be that guy. Listen, I would almost embrace it now because the more questions about this, the fewer questions about how poor of a football team you are right now offensively and how poor that showing was the other night. So embrace it. Lean into it, as the folks say.
You know how we always anticipate Belichick's handshakes with his former assistants after the game? This one before the game for Baker, when Bobby Wagner comes through in the handshake line for the coin toss, that's Grant and Lee in 1865. That's the most anticipated. And Baker should hug him and go like this and just squeeze him in and make it the most earnest, respectful handshake of all time. Lean into it, like you're saying, literally.
Does he come out looking like the victim here, Baker Mayfield?
Yeah, it comes out well. Because it came out like Richard Sherman made up some nonsense, and then the video's like, Ritz, you shook her hand. Actually, Baker wins this.
All right, we're here to preview Week 6, of course, looking ahead to the Redskins. They find a new interim coach. They have to find a new head coach, though. But why is a current head coach being asked about it, Mike?
Great question.